Hey guys, Dustin Gotro here at Fitness Reborn in McKinney, Texas. Just wanted to make a little video, kind of give you guys some information on who I am, who we are as a gym, and exactly what it is we do here. For those of you that are already members, you may learn some information that you didn't know about me or about our gym. And for those of you looking into our gym, just kind of give you a little glimpse of what goes on in our gym and what it is we really focus on at Fitness Reborn. So first things first, the kind of background of myself. I started at 24 Hour Fitness as a personal trainer, worked my way up to assistant manager, and then fitness manager, and remained there a couple years. Quickly realized at about the same time my brother realized, I kind of followed his footsteps, that the corporate world just wasn't for us. There wasn't enough freedom for us to really do what we believed in. And both of us specialize in corrective exercise with National Academy of Sports Medicine. That's what we truly believe in, and everything we do is based on that knowledge. So my brother left 24 to open up a CrossFit gym, and that's where I ended up. I followed after him very quickly, went and worked for him for 8 years, ran CrossFit for him, and then we moved out here to McKinney and opened up my own gym. Started as a CrossFit as well, and 1 year after rebranded to what we are now, which is Fitness Reborn. And so that kind of brings me to what Fitness Reborn is, and kind of what my vision of it is, why we got away from CrossFit, all that good stuff. So just to kind of be really clear, nothing against CrossFit, nothing bad to say about it. I love the program, completely changed my life, and everything that I believed about fitness just opened my eyes to everything. The main reason we rebranded is I wanted to have a gym that really specialized in corrective exercise. And so what that means, for those of you not familiar with the terminology, any muscle imbalances caused by postural distortion patterns, so bad posture. If you're seated at a desk all day long, if you're some type of truck driver and you're seated all day long, or just bad movement patterns. We work with a lot of people that are just doing jobs that have them going through the same pattern every single day. That causes muscle imbalances and eventually leads to injury. Now that can be just chronic pain, daily pain in your neck and back from the positions that you're putting yourself in. It could be something that you perceive as an injury from lifting something or twisting the wrong way, or I bent over to tie my shoes and my back went out, and we perceive it to be that one individual thing that caused that injury. And one big thing I've learned working with an ASM and working with clients that have had those types of injuries is that it wasn't that one individual instance that caused the injury. It was years and years and years of bad movement patterns that eventually led to that injury. So that concept of these things being caused by muscle imbalances, not by one individual movement, is a huge part of what we do. It's the first thing that I look for with anybody that has any type of injury pain or chronic pain is, what are you doing on a daily basis? What is your job? Are you seated all day long? I want to know any sports you play, how you work out, how you move around at home. What are you doing that could be causing those patterns? And then the second thing I want to see is, how do you actually move? And so I want to see a squat assessment. I want to see you pick something up off the ground to see what type of patterns your body naturally has based off of the ways that you're moving on an everyday basis. So that kind of brings me into what we do here at Fitness Reborn. So the big question a lot of time is, how can I get into a program that's in a class setting and everybody's doing the same workout and not have to worry about getting hurt? If everybody's doing the same thing, obviously each individual has different muscle imbalances, and that's where I come in and I can kind of brag on myself a little bit. One of the talents that I've just naturally always had is I thrive in chaos. I don't know why that is. I'm just naturally that way. That's when I perform best at anything that I'm doing, is when it's chaotic. And so for me, if I have a class of 5 people with 5 different injuries that I have to work around and I have to change the workout completely for each one of those individuals, that's what I love doing. That's what really gets me going and gets me excited, makes me really love my job whenever I have to actually work. Quite honestly, if I have a bunch of healthy people, good athletes that I don't have to really correct form, I don't have to modify anything, my job can get pretty boring. Because it is just running people through the same program, running them through the same class all day long. I'm not a drill sergeant type of trainer. I'm not in people's faces yelling at them to go. So my job is to fix movements. And so if I have a class of people that are all moving really well, that's great. That's a good thing. But for me, it's really boring. It makes my job really boring. And so I've just kind of learned to enjoy the chaos of having to constantly be zoned in on every single person all at once. And so for people coming in, if you're worried about, well, I have this injury, I've had this surgery, I can't squat, I can't deadlift, I can't do this, I can't do that, I would say come in and talk to me and watch a few classes before you decide if you want to actually come in and try it out. Because you'll find out very quickly, even though we do have classes and everybody's doing the same workout, each individual is doing a completely different version of that workout at times to work around their restrictions and work around their injuries. And that's something that I always do. I teach all of our classes, and so you're not going to be just thrown in there with everybody else and expected to just kind of figure it out. We will actually modify everything for you. We will go over all of your injuries, all of your restrictions, and we'll make the modifications that need to happen so that we're not getting hurt. And so that's kind of how our classes run. As far as the other details of what we do, nutrition is always a big question we get. One of the first things people ask when they come in is, what do you suggest for nutrition? I would say there is no one answer for me. Just my personal opinion. I don't think there is one single way that everybody should eat. I do tend to stay along the guidelines of, I would say, more of a paleo / zone hybrid, if you're familiar with those diet plans. We do stay very close to that, and I do believe in both of those diets. However, I believe everybody's completely different. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have different schedules. We all have different roots and generations into our family, where we came from, what our families have been eating for hundreds of years. That changes the way that your body processes certain foods. So I don't believe 100% that everybody should cut out dairy, everybody should cut out complex carbs. I think that needs to be done on an individual basis, and that's how we handle it in the gym. We do give everybody a starter packet. Right at the beginning when you sign up, you'll get a starter packet with a blank meal calendar to fill out, and we'll help you do that. There's recipes, there's a meal list, snack list, everything you need to put together an individual meal plan. But the reason I do it that way and I don't just hand you a meal plan already written out for you is because, again, I like to individualize it. And so if you start on this meal plan, you put it together, you start doing it, and a week in you say, hey, Dustin, look, I'm dizzy and weak all day long. There's something wrong with the diet. We can make some changes, and we can add some things in that may not be on that specific meal plan, but things that I've learned over the years can help with that type of thing. If you're hungry all the time, that type of thing that shouldn't be happening, we can make some alterations to your actual meal plan and individualize it to you. And that's a big thing for me, is making sure that everything we do, including our workouts, nutrition, supplementation, everything is individualized around each person, even though we do typically run in a class setting in our gym. So our program, as far as what we do, so those of you that are familiar with CrossFit, I would say it is very similar. We still do some of the Olympic lifting. We do the gymnastics movements. We do kind of a hybrid of combining everything together, high intensity. What I would say is the biggest difference that makes us not technically a CrossFit is, one, I will completely individualize the workouts if I have to. So we try not to get too far away from what we programmed for that day. But if you come in one day and you have some type of injury or restriction, or a movement that you're just not able to do, I have no problem literally just writing a different workout on the board that's more individualized for you. So you're going to get more of kind of a personal training type workout when needed. And then the other biggest difference is, again, the big emphasis on injury prevention, as well as correcting muscle imbalances, so the actual corrective exercise, as we term it. And again, just to kind of briefly go back over that, the biggest thing that we do is we fix your movements according to human movement science. So the way that the human body is supposed to move, if there's any deviation for that, whether it's the way I see you walking, the way I see you bend down to pick something up, or during an actual workout, the way that you're lifting, the way that you're running. We break those things down for you, and we explain how to actually fix them, and then we go about fixing them. And then the third biggest thing that's going to be very, very different than pretty much any other gym, in my opinion. I haven't run into any other gyms that do this to this extent. Another talent that I have is I have the ability to have a lot of knowledge and corrective exercise on how the human body works, but I have a way of being able to break it down into terms that you can actually understand. And that's something that I've just learned over the years is, I wouldn't go to my doctor and tell them what medications I need to be on because I have no clue what's going on chemically in my body when I start combining those medications. And that goes for any industry. Most of you out there have a job, and you probably wouldn't want me coming over to your job and telling you exactly how to do it because I don't understand it. And it's kind of the same thing with me. I have this understanding of how the human body works, but I also have the understanding that most people that come in here don't have that understanding. They don't know the terminology. They don't know all the big words. They don't know how the nervous system coordinates with the muscular system and controls everything. They don't know the difference in joint mobility and length and tension relationships between muscles that need to work together and all the things that I've studied over the years. People don't understand that, and in my opinion, they don't need to. You guys as members and potential members, you don't need to understand the terminology. You need to understand what's not working and how do we make it work. So just as a quick example, let's say something as simple as I notice on an overhead press. Every time you press, your head comes way out in front and your arms still aren't quite lining up. That's a huge sign that we have some issues with the shoulder girdle. Typically when I see that, we're going to have tight chest, tight lats, everything's collapsing in. You're going to see a rounded upper back if we go down to pick anything up, and that's a major human movement deviation. That's a problem with your actual movement. And the injuries that we'll run into when we start looking into it is going to be any type of rotator cuff injuries, any other shoulder injuries, upper back injuries, neck injuries. There's a lot of tension pulling down when you're pulling up because the lats and chest are trying to pull you this way and you're fighting against it. Typically that's going to result in overcompensation, and we're going to force the bar back, which is going to cause a little sway down here at the lower back. The hips are going to shift out, and then we run into lower back problems. And so as you can see, just a quick explanation, just a simple little thing of the shoulders are out too far in front, they need to come back here. One little simple thing like that can cause a lot of different injuries throughout the day, just in everyday activities, not just working out. In my opinion, members don't need to understand every single little detail about why that's happening. You need to know your chest and lats are tight, they need to be rolled and stretched, and you need to know how to fix it. So what muscles do I need to activate once I stretch all this out and I get everything in alignment? What muscles do I need to activate and strengthen up and tighten up to get to hold there so that I can start moving properly? And so we take the movements that we're using in the gym and we apply that to everyday life. And so that's the third and biggest thing that we do that I would say kind of sets us apart is I just have a way of explaining these really complicated muscle imbalances into very simple things and use the movements in here and apply that to real life. So we use our deadlift with every client in here, whether they've had a back injury, hip injuries, surgeries, all of it, they learn how to deadlift. It's a simple fact. It is a necessary movement of life to be able to function on your own, is you need to be able to bend down and pick things up. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm going to have my 70-year-old woman client come in here and try and max out on a deadlift as heavy as she possibly can. That would obviously be a really, really bad idea in most cases. I will have her learn how to deadlift. In fact, I do have a 70-year-old client right now that I am teaching how to deadlift, but it applies to her life. She lives on a small farm by herself, and she gardens and she farms and she does all this stuff by herself. She needs to be able to bend down and pick things up. And so what I've done is I have talked to her a lot about exactly what she has to do, what movements she has to be able to do, and we are using the deadlift, we're using the squat, and we're applying those movements to what she's doing at home on her farm. And that's a big thing for me, and you'll see some big differences in what types of people are in here and what I'm actually having them do. For instance, that particular client is deadlifting a 15-pound kettlebell off of 2 plates, so about 8 inches off the ground right now, because the mobility is not quite there in the spine yet to be able to get down with her hips low enough to use the legs. And so we modify it just like everything else. And so just kind of keep that in mind if you're thinking about trying this out. These movements are going to apply to your life no matter who you are, what you do, what your issues are. The movements you learn in here will apply to your life. And within a month, you will start to understand that. You'll start to kind of link those things together and find movements that you are doing on an everyday basis that are the exact same movement patterns that you learn in here that we're correcting in here so that they actually transfer out into everyday life. I believe that's about it. If anybody has any questions, you can contact me at fitreborn, F-I-T-reborn @gmail.com. Our website is www.fitreborn.com, and phone number is 972-832-6201. Feel free to give me a call, or to get a little bit faster response, shoot me a text. I'll usually respond to that a little bit quicker. Check us out. Give me a call if you have any questions. Hope to see you soon. Thanks. Bye.